The ion storm came out of nowhere, ripping through Ronan Cade's ship like angry claws. Warning alarms blared as the navigation system flickered and died, followed by the main propulsion unit. As a veteran mercenary turned freelance cargo pilot, Ronan had weathered his share of close calls, but this was different. Something had targeted him specifically. "Glitch! Give me a damage report," Ronan shouted over the cacophony of failing systems. The repair droid's optical sensors flickered as it interfaced with what remained of the ship's diagnostics. Primary systems, non-functional. Secondary systems, non-functional. Tertiary systems. "I get the picture," Ronan muttered, wrestling with the manual landing controls. "Can we survive planetfall?" Probability of survival, approximately 37.8%. Glitch replied with what almost sounded like cheerful resignation. "I'll take those odds," Ronan said through gritted teeth as the ship plummeted toward the dusty surface of Xylos. The landing, if one could call it that, left the ship half buried in sand, its hull breached in multiple places. Ronan extracted himself from the wreckage, bleeding from a gash on his forehead, but otherwise intact. The barren landscape of Xylos stretched around him. Endless dunes punctuated by bizarre rock formations that seemed to defy gravity, their surfaces carved with symbols no human had deciphered. "Well, Glitch," Ronan said as the droid emerged from the wreckage carrying a repair kit. "Welcome to Xylos, the ass end of the galaxy. My databanks indicate this planet once housed a thriving civilization," Glitch observed, its voice box producing a slight static hum from damage sustained in the crash. "The unusual rock formations suggest advanced architectural knowledge." "Fascinating," Ronan replied dryly, surveying the ship. "What are our chances of getting airborne again?" Glitch performed a quick scan. "With current resources? 0%. Ronan sighed, wiping blood from his brow. "Then we salvage what we can and look for water. There has to be some reason the corporation has been sniffing around this dustball." They gathered the remaining supplies. A few water containers, some ration packs, emergency medical supplies, and Ronan's old combat knife and blaster. The weapon was technically prohibited for civilian transport pilots, but old habits died hard. The twin sons of Xylos beat down mercilessly as Ronan and Glitch trekked toward a cluster of ruins visible on the horizon. According to the ship's data before the crash, these ruins might contain remnants of ancient technology, possibly salvageable parts. More importantly, geological surveys suggested the presence of underground water sources nearby. "What caused the malfunction?" Ronan asked as they walked. "That wasn't just an ion storm." "Unknown," Glitch replied. "However, I detected an unusual signal pattern immediately before systems failure. Potentially a targeted disruption device. Someone wanted us down," Ronan muttered. "Question is who and why?" The ruins proved more extensive than they'd appeared from a distance. A sprawling complex of half-buried structures and massive stone pillars carved with luminescent symbols. As the suns began to set, casting long shadows across the alien architecture, Ronan felt a prickle of unease. His mercenary instincts, dulled but not forgotten after years of civilian work, warned him they were being watched. "Let's check that structure," he said, pointing to what appeared to be an ancient ship or transport vessel embedded in the stone. "Might have components we can salvage." Inside the derelict vessel, Ronan searched for anything useful while Glitch analyzed the strange technology. The interior was cool, a welcome relief from the punishing heat outside, and surprisingly intact given its apparent age. "Ronan," Glitch called, its mechanical voice echoing in the chamber. "I'm detecting a life form." Ronan's hand went to his blaster, old reflexes taking over. "Where?" Before Glitch could answer, Ronan heard it, a soft, muffled sound like someone trying to stifle a cough. He moved cautiously toward the source, blaster ready, and peered behind a collapsed control panel. What he found wasn't the threat he expected. A small figure huddled in the shadows, unmistakably a child, though clearly not human. Her skin had a faint luminescent pattern that mirrored the symbols on the ruins outside, and her large, deep purple eyes regarded him with equal parts fear and curiosity. She appeared weak, her small frame trembling from what Ronan recognized as hunger. Ronan holstered his weapon slowly. "It's okay," he said softly, though he doubted she understood. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child watched him warily, pressed against the wall. "Glitch, translation protocol," Ronan ordered, not taking his eyes off the child. Analyzing linguistic patterns, Glitch responded. "No match found in current database." Ronan sighed and reached slowly into his pack, pulling out one of his remaining ration bars. He unwrapped it and held it out to the child, making eating motions. The girl hesitated, then hunger overcame caution. She darted forward, snatched the food from his hand, and retreated to her corner. She devoured the ration bar with desperate intensity, and Ronan felt a twinge of something he rarely allowed himself to feel anymore: compassion. "That's my last one," he told her, knowing she couldn't understand. "But you needed it more than I did." The child finished eating and looked up at him with those enormous purple eyes. A small smile formed on her lips, the universal expression of gratitude that needed no translation. "You have fed my daughter by the ancestral rite of sustenance." The voice, deep and melodic yet unmistakably feminine, came from behind him. Ronan spun around, reaching for his blaster, but froze at the sight before him. A tall, imposing figure stood at the entrance to the chamber. Like the child, her skin bore luminescent patterns, though far more complex and intricate. She carried an energy spear that hummed with power. Her posture was regal, warrior-like, her gaze intense as she surveyed him. "Your daughter?" Ronan managed, his hand still hovering near his weapon. The woman approached slowly, the spear lowered but ready. Her eyes moved from Ronan to the child and back again, taking in the scene with calculated precision. Her expression softened slightly when she saw the empty ration wrapper. "You have saved Alara from hunger," she stated, her command of the common galactic language surprisingly fluent. She moved closer to the child, Alara, who ran to her side, chattering excitedly in their native tongue. The woman listened to the child, then turned her penetrating gaze back to Ronan. "I am Zaria of Ikthar, and now, according to the ancestral rite, my body and loyalty belong to you until the blood moon completes its cycle." Ronan blinked, certain he had misheard. What? "You have provided sustenance to my child in times of scarcity," Zaria explained, her tone formal and dignified. "By the oldest laws of my people, I am bound to you as protector and servant." "Look," Ronan said, holding up his hands, "I just gave the kid some food. I don't want her need, whatever this is." "The right is absolute," Zaria stated firmly. "To refuse is to bring dishonor and danger upon us all." Glitch, who had been observing the exchange silently, suddenly whirred to life. "Fascinating cultural protocol. I am detecting elevated stress markers in both humanoids." "Not helping, Glitch," Ronan muttered, then turned back to Zaria. "I appreciate the, offer, but I'm just trying to repair my ship and get off this planet." Zaria's expression hardened. "Your ship is beyond repair with available resources. The landing systems are completely destroyed, and your power core is cracked." "How do you know that?" Ronan asked suspiciously. "I have been observing since you crashed," she replied matter-of-factly. "The Kthar know this land. We know its dangers. Without my protection and knowledge, you will not survive one full cycle of the suns." Ronan ran a hand through his dust-caked hair in frustration. "And if I refuse this, right? Then the bond remains unacknowledged," Zaria said gravely. "Such an imbalance draws predators, both beast and sentient. The energies of unfulfilled rites disturb the balance of Xylos. None of us would be safe, including your mechanical companion." Ronan glanced at Glitch, who was now scanning Zaria and Alara with undisguised curiosity, then looked back at the vast desert visible through the entrance. He was stranded on an unknown planet with limited supplies and apparently enough enemies to have shot him down. His chances of survival alone were slim at best. "Fine," he conceded reluctantly. "I temporarily accept this arrangement, but only until we figure out a way off this planet." Zaria nodded solemnly. "The right is acknowledged. I am your shield until the blood moon completes its cycle. She thumped her fist against her chest in what appeared to be a ceremonial gesture. Great, Ronan said, wondering what exactly he'd gotten himself into. Now, can we find some water before we all die of thirst? The trek across the desert was arduous, even with Zaria's guidance. She led them along paths invisible to Ronan's eyes, avoiding sinkholes and poisonous gas vents that peppered the seemingly uniform landscape. Alara, revitalized by the food, darted ahead occasionally, only to be called back by her mother's sharp commands. Your daughter, Ronan ventured during a brief rest in the shade of a towering rock formation. She seems resilient. Zaria's expression softened slightly at the mention of Alara. The Kthar children are taught strength from birth. She has endured more in her few cycles than most in the galaxy will in a lifetime. And her father? Ronan asked, immediately regretting the question when he saw Zaria's face harden. Lost to the corporation's raids, she replied curtly, as were many of our people. The corporation? You mean Xylos Corp? Zaria nodded grimly. They came first claiming to trade, to help develop our world. Then they discovered the crystals and the ancient technologies. When we refused to surrender our sacred sites, they branded us hostiles. Her hand tightened around her spear. They hunt us now like animals, seeking our deepest knowledge. What knowledge? Ronan pressed, his curiosity piqued. Before Zaria could answer, Alara called out in alarm. A moment later, Ronan heard it too, a low, rumbling growl coming from behind a nearby dune. Sand Stalker, Zaria whispered, positioning herself between the sound and the others. Do not run. Their vision tracks movement. The creature that crested the dune was nightmarish, a six-legged predator with translucent skin that partially camouflaged it against the sand. Its elongated head housed multiple rows of serrated teeth, and sensory appendages twitched at the air. When I move, be ready to follow, Zaria instructed, her voice barely audible. Alara knows the path. Before Ronan could respond, Zaria launched forward with astonishing speed. Her spear crackled with energy as she thrust it toward the sand stalker, not to kill but to distract. The creature roared in anger, focusing entirely on this new threat. Now, Alara tugged at Ronan's hand, pulling him toward a narrow crevice in the rock face. Ronan hesitated, watching as Zaria gracefully evaded the creature's lunges. We can't just leave her. Mother knows the dance, Alara replied in broken common language. She will follow. Reluctantly, Ronan allowed Alara to lead him and glitch into the crevice, which widened into a tunnel as they progressed. Behind them, he could hear the continued sounds of the confrontation, then silence. Moments later, Zaria slipped into the tunnel, breathing heavily but unharmed. You fight. Impressively, Ronan admitted. I am Kthar, she replied simply, as if that explained everything. Then, noticing his concerned expression, she added, the stalker will find easier prey. We're safe for now. The tunnel system extended deep into the rock, eventually opening into a vast cavern illuminated by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. The same crystals, Ronan noted, that matched the patterns on Zaria and Alara's skin. These crystals, he began, reaching toward one. Do not touch, Zaria warned sharply. They respond to biological signatures. Your metabolism is not adapted to their energy. Ronan pulled his hand back quickly. What are they? Life, Zaria replied enigmatically. And power, the beating heart of Xylos. She gestured for them to continue. We must reach this sanctuary before darkness falls completely. The night brings more dangerous hunters than sand stalkers. As they traversed deeper into the cavern system, Ronan observed the increasing frequency of ancient carvings and structures integrated into the natural rock. Some appeared to be machinery of sorts, though unlike any technology he recognized. Your people built all this? He asked, gesturing to an archway covered in intricate symbols. Built, grown, shaped, Zaria corrected. The Kthar do not impose upon the world as your kind does. We commune with it, direct its energies. Fascinating architectural methodology, Glitch commented, recording everything they passed. Organic technology integration at a molecular level. Zarya cast a curious glance at the droid. Your mechanical companion speaks with unusual perception. Glitch is unique, Ronan acknowledged. Found him abandoned in a scrapyard years ago. Previous owner must have customized him extensively. I have numerous non-standard subroutines, Glitch added proudly. Most of unknown origin and purpose. Alara giggled at the droid's statement, seemingly understanding more of their language than she let on. She approached Glitch without fear, examining his metallic structure with curious fingers. She has never seen a droid, Zarya explained. Our technology does not separate the living from the mechanical so distinctly. They continued through the labyrinthine passages until they reached what appeared to be a dead end. Zarya placed her palm against the rock wall, and the luminescent patterns on her skin brightened momentarily. In response, the seemingly solid stone rippled like water and parted, revealing the hidden sanctuary of the Cathar. The sight took Ronan's breath away. A vast underground city spread before them, illuminated by the same crystals they'd seen throughout the caves. Structures both carved from stone and grown from living material created a harmonious blend of natural and constructed environment. Water flowed through channels throughout the settlement, and gardens of strange, phosphorescent plants provided both food and additional light. Most striking, however, were the Cathar themselves. Only a few dozen remained, all bearing the same luminescent patterns as Zarya and Alara, though each unique in its configuration. They turned as one to observe the newcomers, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. An elderly Cathar approached, leaning on a staff topped with a pulsing crystal. "You bring outsiders to our final sanctuary, Zarya." The accusation in his voice required no translation. "By the ancestral right of sustenance, Elder the Lawn," Zarya responded formally. "He saved Alara from hunger when we were separated during the corporation's last sweep." The elder's gaze shifted to Ronan, his ancient eyes evaluating and judging. "The right is sacred," he finally acknowledged. "But caution remains wisdom in these times." He turned to address the gathered Cathar in their native tongue, and slowly, the tension in the air dissipated. "You may remain," the elder told Ronan, "under Zarya's responsibility. But know this, outsider, betray our trust, and not even the right will protect you." "Understood," Ronan replied solemnly. "I just want to repair my ship and leave your world in peace." "Peace," the elder echoed with a sad smile. "Xylos has not known true peace since the corporation came." He gestured toward a small dwelling near the edge of the settlement. "Rest there. Tomorrow brings its own challenges." As they walked toward the assigned dwelling, Ronan noticed Alara running ahead to join other Cathar children. Despite their circumstances, they played and laughed like children anywhere in the galaxy. "She seems happy, despite everything," he observed. "Children adapt," Zarya replied. "It is their strength and their burden." She paused, watching her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. "The Cathar have always endured, but now we are few, and the corporation grows bolder." "What exactly does the corporation want here?" Ronan asked. "This planet has minimal strategic value, and the environment is hardly ideal for colonization." Zarya's expression darkened. "They seek the heart of Xylos, the source of our world's power. They believe it can be weaponized, turned into an energy source that would make them unstoppable in your markets of war." "And can it?" "At the cost of this entire world," she replied grimly. "The heart balances all energy on Xylos. To remove it would be to kill the planet itself." Inside the dwelling, Zarya showed Ronan to a sleeping area while Glitch powered down in a corner to conserve energy. The space was simple but comfortable, with various crystals providing gentle illumination. "So," Ronan said awkwardly, "this right of yours, what exactly does it entail?" "Because I'm not looking for her. It is not a mating ritual. If that concerns you," Zarya interrupted, a hint of amusement in her voice for the first time. "The rite establishes a bond of protection and service until the debt of life is repaid. In ancient times, it ensured survival through cooperation during resource scarcity. And how long until this blood moon completes its cycle? What you would call approximately 3 standard months, she replied. But circumstances may fulfill the Rite's purpose sooner. Meaning if you save my life, as I am bound to save yours, or if you bring prosperity to my people equal to the life you preserved, the Rite is considered complete. She regarded him curiously. Does my service disturb you so greatly? Ronan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Where I come from, nobody gives anything for free. There's always a catch, always a price. The price was paid when you fed my daughter without expectation of return, Zaria said simply. That is the essence of the Rite, recognizing and honoring selfless acts in a harsh world. Before Ronan could respond, a commotion outside drew their attention. Zaria moved swiftly to the entrance, Ronan close behind. A Kthar scout had returned, wounded and exhausted. Corporation dropships, the scout reported between labored breaths. Many, moving toward the eastern ruins. The elder approached, his face grave. How many? At least 5. Heavy equipment. They have new scanning technology. Murmurs of concern spread through the gathered Kthar. Zaria turned to Ronan, her expression grim. Your crash was no accident, she said quietly. They are escalating their search. Ronan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool underground air. They shot me down because they thought I knew something, or to use your ship's emergency beacon to triangulate potential Kthar settlements, Zaria suggested. Either way, we must prepare. If their new scanners can detect the crystal energy signatures through rock. She didn't need to finish the thought. The sanctuary might no longer be safe. Over the next several days, Ronan found himself increasingly integrated into the Kthar community. His technical skills, honed through years of maintaining his own ship, proved valuable in repairing the settlement's aging water filtration systems and power generators. Your knowledge is useful, Zaria admitted as they worked together to fix a malfunctioning energy distributor. Perhaps the Rite brought you to us for a purpose beyond chance. I don't believe in destiny, Ronan replied, adjusting a crystal alignment. Just bad luck and worse timing. Zaria observed his work with interest. Yet you understand how to balance energy flows instinctively. Few outsiders grasp such concepts without training. When you've worked with enough different ship systems, you start to see patterns, he shrugged. Energy is energy, whether it's powering a hyperdrive or... He gestured to the distributor, whatever this actually is. In the evenings, Zaria began teaching Ronan basic Kthar combat techniques. Despite his protests that he was adequately trained from his mercenary days, she insisted. If you were to own me by the Rite, you must be capable of protecting that claim, she explained, positioning his hands correctly on a training staff. It is tradition. Even though we both know you could break me in half without trying? Ronan asked dryly. A ghost of a smile crossed Zaria's face. Perhaps that is why the tradition exists, to humble the protector. As days passed, Glitch spent time with the Kthar elders, exchanging knowledge and analyzing data. The droid's unconventional programming allowed it to grasp concepts of Kthar technology that Ronan struggled to comprehend. I have been examining the corporation's communication signals, Glitch reported one evening. They appear to be searching for specific energy signatures that match what they call the heart. Can you decode more of their transmissions? Ronan asked. Affirmative. However, I believe my initial hypothesis was correct. Your ship was deliberately targeted. The timing of the ion storm and the presence of a disruption signal suggest a coordinated effort to bring down any vessel entering Xylo's airspace. So, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, Ronan muttered. Not entirely accurate, Glitch corrected. Your manifest indicated you were transporting data cores from the Rigel outpost. The corporation recently experienced a security breach at that location. Ronan froze. Are you saying I was carrying corporate secrets without knowing it? Probability suggests yes. However, the data cores were destroyed in the crash. The implications troubled Ronan deeply. If the corporation believed he had their secrets, they wouldn't stop at shooting down his ship. They would want to eliminate all evidence, including him. Meanwhile, Elara had taken to following Ronan when not with her mother, curious about the outsider who had triggered the ancestral rite. She rarely spoke, but when she did, her command of the common language improved daily. "Why your skin not glow?" she asked one day as Ronan repaired a section of collapsed tunnel. "Humans don't have a connection to energy crystals like your people do," he explained, simplifying as best he could. Elara considered this, her head tilted. "Sad. Light is life. We have our own kind of light," Ronan replied, surprising himself at the sentiment. "Just not visible the same way." The girl smiled as if he'd said something profound. Then, to his astonishment, she placed her small hand on his forearm, and the patterns on her skin pulsed brightly. A warm sensation spread up his arm, not unpleasant but definitely alien. "Elara." Zaria's sharp voice broke the moment. She rushed forward, pulling her daughter back. "What are you doing?" "Sharing light," Elara replied innocently. "He is light inside, different but strong." Zaria looked at Ronan with newfound wariness. "Did you encourage this?" "No," Ronan said honestly, still feeling the lingering warmth in his arm. "What just happened?" After sending Elara to join the other children, Zaria explained reluctantly. She attempted to form an energy bond, a sharing of life force. It is intimate, sacred, and potentially dangerous with non-Kathar. "Will it harm her?" Ronan asked, concerned. "No, but it reveals she has stronger abilities than most children her age." Zaria studied him intently, "and that you're somehow compatible with our energy. This is unusual." Before they could discuss it further, alarms echoed through the settlement, a pattern of crystal tones that Ronan had been told signified immediate danger. "Corporation scouts," a Kthar guard reported breathlessly. "They found the outer caverns." The settlement erupted into organized chaos as the Kthar implemented their emergency protocols. Zaria immediately took charge of a defensive group, while other Kthar guided the children and elders toward deeper, more concealed chambers. "Stay with Elara," Zaria instructed Ronan firmly. "Protect her by the right." "I can fight," Ronan protested. "I was a mercenary before I was a pilot." Zaria's expression hardened. "Then your greatest value is protecting our future. Go." Reluctantly, Ronan joined the evacuation group, Glitch following close behind. As they moved deeper into the cavern system, he could hear the distant sounds of energy weapons and the distinctive hum of Kthar crystal spears. The children were frightened but disciplined, following their guardian's instructions without question. Elara, however, kept looking back toward the sounds of battle. "Mother fights," she said simply, her small face tight with worry. "She's a warrior," Ronan assured her. "She knows what she's doing." They reached a concealed chamber deep within the mountain, its entrance disguised by a waterfall of luminescent liquid. Once inside, Ronan positioned himself near the entrance, blaster ready. The waiting was excruciating. Every distant explosion or shout could have been Zaria falling. After what seemed like hours, a figure stumbled through the waterfall entrance. Zaria's luminescent patterns were dimmed with exhaustion, and a wound on her side leaked a silvery fluid, but she was alive. "We've pushed them back temporarily," she reported, wincing as an elder applied a crystal-infused salve to her injury. "But they'll return with greater numbers." Their commander arrived, a man called Thorn. "He's ruthless." "Marcus Thorn?" Ronan asked sharply. Zaria looked up in surprise. "You know him?" "By reputation," Ronan replied grimly. "He was notorious, even among mercenary circles, for excessive force. If he's leading this operation, the corporation isn't just after resources. They want to make an example. We cannot abandon the sanctuary," the elder insisted. "The heart." "Tell him," Zaria interrupted, her voice firm. "He is bound by the right and has proven trustworthy. He deserves to know what he faces." The elder hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "The heart of Xylos is not merely a power source, outsider. It is the ancestral consciousness of the Kthar, the combined wisdom and energy of generations, contained within a central crystal matrix deep beneath this settlement. It's why the crystals and the Kthar share the same energy signature, Glitch added, connecting the pieces. They are biologically linked. Yes, the elder confirmed. And Alara, she has the strongest connection we've seen in generations. The corporation somehow knows this. They don't just want the heart for power. They want her to control it. Ronan looked at Alara, who sat quietly with the other children, her luminescent patterns pulsing gently. Then we need to get her off planet, he said decisively. Is there any way to contact outside help? The Cthar have a small transmitter, Zarius said, but its range is limited and the corporation blocks all unauthorized communications from Xylos. Glitch can modify it, Ronan suggested. If we can boost the signal enough to reach the outer system. Who would come? The elder asked skeptically. The Cthar have no allies in the stars anymore. Not for the Cthar, Ronan admitted, but a distress call from a registered transport pilot shot down by corporate forces that might attract attention from regulatory authorities. Corporations hate attention from regulators. For the first time, hope flickered in Zaria's eyes. It could work, but we need time. Time was a luxury they didn't have. Before dawn, the corporation forces returned, this time with heavy excavation equipment and energy-dampening fields that weakened the Cthar-esque crystal weapons. Zaria led a desperate defense, while Ronan and Glitch worked to modify the ancient Cthar transmitter. Alara insisted on staying with them, her connection to the crystal technology proving unexpectedly helpful as she instinctively adjusted energy flows that neither Ronan nor Glitch fully understood. Almost there, Ronan muttered, connecting the final circuits. Glitch, what's our broadcast window? Approximately 30 seconds before corporation scanning technology detects the transmission, the droid calculated. Message must be concise and include all critical data. Right? Ronan recorded a brief but detailed message, including coordinates, evidence of the attack on his ship, and accusations of corporate-sanctioned violence against indigenous population. It wasn't much, but it might be enough to trigger an investigation. Just as they prepared to transmit, the chamber shook violently. Dust and small rocks showered down as the corporation's mining equipment bore through the cavern ceiling some distance away. They're trying to collapse the entire system, Ronan realized. We need to transmit now and evacuate. The transmission was sent just as the first corporation soldiers breached the inner chambers. Ronan grabbed Alara and ran toward the evacuation route, but they turned a corner to find their path blocked by rubble from a fresh collapse. Back this way, he directed, but it was too late. A squad of heavily armed corporation mercenaries appeared at the corridor junction, led by a tall, severe-looking man with cybernetic implants visible on his temple and jaw. Ronan Cade, Marcus Thorne said, his voice artificially modulated to a menacing bass. The transport pilot with a surprisingly extensive weapons background. I thought my men had taken care of you during the crash. Sorry to disappoint, Ronan replied, positioning himself in front of Alara. Corporate assassination attempts just aren't what they used to be. Thorne's augmented eye scanned Ronan and then fixed on Alara. So the rumors are true. The Cthar are breeding stronger connections to the crystal matrix. He gestured to his men. Secure the child. Kill the others. What happened next occurred so quickly that Ronan could barely process it. As the soldiers raised their weapons, Alara stepped out from behind him, her small hands raised in front of her. The luminescent patterns on her skin flared with blinding intensity, and every crystal in the corridor responded, pulsing in sync with her. A wave of energy erupted outward, sending the corporation's soldiers flying backward. Their weapons and equipment sparked and died, electromagnetic systems completely overloaded. Thorne alone remained standing, his cybernetic implants smoking but functional. Impressive, he said coldly, drawing a specialized sidearm. All the more reason to study you properly, child. Before he could fire, Zaria appeared behind him, her spear driving forward in a perfect strike. But Thorne was faster than he appeared, twisting away at the last second. The spear only grazed his side, and he turned to face this new threat with mechanical precision. The mother, he observed. Even better. 2 specimens for the price of 1. Ronan saw his opportunity and took it, drawing his blaster and firing not at Thorn, but at the unstable ceiling above him. Rocks crashed down, forcing Thorn to dive aside. In the confusion, Zarya grabbed Ilera, who had collapsed from the energy expenditure, and they ran. This way, Zarya directed, leading them down a narrow passage Ronan hadn't noticed before. It leads to the heart chamber. We'll be safe there temporarily. You're taking us deeper? Ronan questioned as they ran. We need to get to the surface. The heart chamber has independent access tunnels, she explained breathlessly. Ancient escape routes. But only Kthar can open them. Behind them, they could hear Thorn ordering his remaining forces to pursue. The sound echoed through the tunnel system, making it impossible to judge distance. The heart chamber took Ronan's breath away despite their dire circumstances. A massive cavern opened before them, dominated by a colossal crystal formation that pulsed with living light. Smaller crystals orbited the central mass like satellites, creating a mathematical pattern of breathtaking complexity. The ancestral consciousness, Zarya explained reverently, carrying the still unconscious Ilera toward the central formation. The combined wisdom of all Kthar who came before. The remaining Kthar survivors had gathered here, their numbers alarmingly small. Elder Thalan approached, his face grave with concern. The sanctuary is lost, he said, his voice heavy with grief. In their greed, the corporation destroys what they seek to possess. We need to activate the escape tunnels, Zarya insisted, gently laying Ilera near the base of the heart crystal. The patterns on the child's skin pulsed weakly, resonating with a larger formation. There is no time, the elder replied. The girl has depleted her energy. To open the ancient ways requires strength she does not currently possess. Glitch, who had been analyzing the chamber since their arrival, suddenly spoke up. The energy signatures indicate a harmonious relationship between Kthar biology and the crystal matrix. Perhaps a concentrated focus from multiple Kthar could compensate for Ilera's current weakness. The elder shook his head. None have her natural connection. It would require all our remaining strength, leaving us defenseless. Then I'll buy you time, Ronan decided, checking his blaster charge. How long do you need? You cannot face Thorn alone, Zarya objected immediately. By the right, I am bound to protect you. And by that same right, I'm responsible for Ilera, Ronan countered. I'm not asking, Zarya. Get your people ready. Glitch and I will hold them off. Before she could protest further, distant explosions shook the chamber. The corporation forces were getting closer. If I may, Glitch interjected. I have been analyzing corporation communication protocols. I believe I can transmit false coordinates to temporarily misdirect some of their forces. Ronan nodded. Do it. Then help me set up defensive positions. As Glitch busied itself with electronic countermeasures, Ronan and several Kthar warriors prepared a last stand at the chamber entrance. Zarya approached Ronan as he positioned himself behind a crystal outcropping. This is not your battle, she said quietly. It became my battle when they shot down my ship, Ronan replied, not meeting her eyes. And when they threatened your daughter. You speak as if the Rite has meaning to you now, Zarya observed. Ronan finally looked at her. Maybe it does. Or maybe I'm just tired of corporations destroying worlds for profit. He checked his weapon one last time. Get back to Ilera. She needs her mother more than I need another gun. Zarya hesitated, then placed her hand on his shoulder. The luminescent patterns on her skin brightened momentarily, sending a warm energy through Ronan's body. For strength, she said simply, then returned to the heart where the Kthar were gathering around Ilera in a ritual formation. The first wave of corporation soldiers arrived minutes later. Ronan and the Kthar warriors met them with coordinated resistance, using their knowledge of the chamber's layout to maximum advantage. Glitch had successfully diverted several squads, but enough remained to pose a serious threat. Fall back to the secondary position, Ronan ordered as the initial defenses crumbled under sustained fire. The Kthar warriors retreated in perfect order, covering each other with disciplined precision. Just as they reached the secondary defensive line, a new sound cut through the chaos of battle, a high-pitched whine that made Ronan's teeth ache. The corporation troops suddenly withdrew, taking cover in the tunnel. Energy signature detected, glitch warned. Consistent with high-yield plasma cutter. Ronin's blood ran cold. They're going to cut through the entire chamber wall. The whine intensified, and a glowing line appeared on the chamber wall, tracing a massive circular pattern. Behind him, Ronin could hear the Cathar elders chanting in their native tongue, their voices rising in harmony as they channeled energy into Alera's unconscious form. "How much longer?" Ronin shouted over his shoulder. "The pathways are awakening," Elder the Lawn called back. "But we need more time." The circular cut was nearly complete when Marcus Thorne stepped through the existing opening, protected by a personal energy shield. His cybernetic eye glowed an eerie red as he surveyed the chamber. "Magnificent," he said, his gaze fixed on the heart. "Worth more than this entire backwater system." "That backwater system includes sentient beings with rights recognized by Galactic Accord," Ronan replied, stepping forward to face him. "What you're doing isn't just immoral, Thorne, it's illegal." Thorne laughed, the sound distorted by his vocal implants. "The Galactic Accord doesn't extend to unregistered species, Cade. The Cathar have no official status, which makes them, and their technology, free for exploitation." "That's where you're wrong," Ronan countered. "I sent a distress signal before you found us, complete with coordinates and documentation of your attacks on both my ship and indigenous people. The regulatory agencies will be very interested." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Thorne's face. "You're bluffing. All communications from Xylos are blocked." "Not all of them," Glitch interjected, stepping forward. "I have completed transmission of all corporation communication logs, attack plans, and mineral survey data to 3 separate regulatory bodies via subspace frequency." Thorne's expression contorted with rage. "Destroy that droid," he commanded his troops. As the corporation soldiers opened fire on Glitch, Ronin made his move. He charged Thorne directly, a tactic so foolhardy that it caught the commander off guard. Ronin crashed into Thorne's shield, which held against the impact but caused both men to stumble backward. "Your shield stops energy weapons," Ronin growled, drawing his combat knife. "Let's see how it does against good, old-fashioned steel." Thorne recovered quickly, his augmented reflexes allowing him to parry Ronin's thrust with his armored forearm. "I reviewed your service record, Cade," he said as they circled each other. "Dishonorable discharge from the corporate security force. Failed mercenary. Cargo pilot barely scraping by. You're nothing." "Maybe," Ronin acknowledged, feinting left before striking right. "But I'm nothing with good aim." His knife found a gap in Thorne's armor, sinking deep into the junction between the commander's natural shoulder and cybernetic components. Thorne roared in pain, his shield flickering momentarily as its power source detected the disruption. Taking advantage of the shield's weakened state, a Cathar warrior fired a crystal shard that penetrated the barrier, embedding itself in Thorne's leg. The commander staggered, his cybernetic systems sparking erratically. Behind them, a sudden surge of energy emanated from the heart chamber. Alera had awakened, her eyes glowing with the same luminescence as the crystal patterns on her skin. The combined energy of the Cathar. Elders flowed through her, connecting her to the ancient consciousness within the heart. "It is done," Elder the Lawn announced. "The path is open." At that moment, Thorne activated an emergency protocol in his cybernetic systems. His implants glowed red, and he pulled a small device from his armor. "If I can't have the heart," he snarled, "no one will. This fusion detonator will collapse the entire cavern system. Even your corporation won't forgive destroying a trillion credit resource," Ronan warned, eyeing the device. "They'll never know the truth," Thorne replied coldly. "My report will show the Cathar destroyed their own sacred site rather than share its benefits. A tragic cultural loss that justifies even more aggressive resource acquisition on other worlds." He activated the detonator, its countdown display flickering to life. "You have 3 minutes to make peace with whatever gods you believe in." Before Ronan could react, Zarya appeared beside Thorne, moving with impossible speed. Her spear struck with precision, hitting the exact point where Ronan's knife had penetrated Thorn's armor. The commander's cybernetic systems overloaded in a cascade of sparks, and he fell to his knees, the detonator falling from his paralyzed hand. Ronan lunged for the device, but it skittered across the floor toward the advancing corporation troops. One of them grabbed it triumphantly, continuing the countdown. "Retreat to the escape tunnels," Zarya shouted to her people. Now, the Cthar began moving toward a newly appeared opening behind the heart crystal. Alara stood at its entrance, her small form radiating power as she maintained the ancient pathway. Glitch, damaged but functional, interfaced with a crystal node. "I can access the tunnel's guidance systems," the droid announced. "All Cthar, proceed immediately. I will navigate." As the Cthar evacuated, Ronan and Zarya fought a desperate rearguard action. The corporation's soldiers pressed forward, determined to capture at least some of their prize before the detonator activated. "Go with your people," Ronan told Zarya during a brief lull. "I'll hold them here." "The Rite," she began, "has been fulfilled," he interrupted. "You protected me. I protected Alara. We're even." Zarya's eyes held his for a long moment. "The Rite is not merely obligation," Ronan cade. "It is recognition of bonds formed through sacrifice." Without warning, she pulled him into a fierce embrace. "Which is why we both go, or neither does." A sudden blast rocked the chamber as the corporation soldiers breached their final defensive position. Thorn, partially recovered through his backup systems, staggered toward them, hatred burning in his human eye. "You've ruined everything," he spat. "Decades of planning, billions in investment. Your shareholders will survive," Ronan replied. "The Cthar wouldn't." Thorn raised his sidearm with shaking hands. "Then neither will you." Before he could fire, the heart crystal pulsed with blinding intensity. Every Cthar pattern in the chamber responded, including Zarya's, creating a network of light that momentarily disoriented the corporation forces. Now, Zarya grabbed Ronan's arm and pulled him toward the escape tunnel where Alara waited, her small face strained with the effort of maintaining the opening. They reached the tunnel just as the detonator reached its final seconds. Alara released her hold on the ancient mechanism as soon as they passed through, and the opening sealed behind them with a sound like crystalline bells. The explosion was muffled by the sealed passage, but its force still rippled through the tunnel system, causing dust and small crystals to rain down on the fleeing Cthar. Glitch guided them efficiently through the labyrinthine escape route, its memory banks having mapped the entire system from the heart's data. Structural integrity at 72% and holding, the droid reported. "We will reach the surface in approximately 12 minutes at current pace." The tunnel eventually emerged in a hidden canyon several kilometers from the original sanctuary. As the Cthar gathered in the starlight, they looked back to see a portion of the mountain collapsing, dust clouds rising into the night sky. "The heart?" Ronan asked quietly. Elder Delon closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with a small smile. "Lives." Thorn failed to understand. "The physical crystal is merely a conduit. The true heart is the collective consciousness of the Cthar, which now resides within all of us." He gestured to the patterns that glowed softly on each survivor's skin. "As long as one Cthar lives, the heart cannot die." Alara, exhausted but conscious, approached Ronan and took his hand. "We go where now?" It was a question Ronan hadn't considered. His ship was destroyed, the sanctuary gone, and the corporation would soon realize their commander had failed. "There's a trading outpost in the next system," he said thoughtfully. "If we can reach it, we might find transport to a world beyond corporation influence." "And how do we reach this outpost?" Zarya asked, practical as always. Glitch whirred thoughtfully. "I've been analyzing the wreckage of Ronan's ship. The sublight engines and navigation system could potentially be salvaged and integrated with Cthar crystal technology to power a short-range vessel." The Cthar looked to Zarya, who had naturally assumed a leadership position. She turned to Ronan, a question in her eyes. "Well," he said with a half-smile, "I was planning to upgrade my ship anyway." In the weeks that followed, the Cthar established a new, temporary settlement in the hidden canyon. Using salvage parts from Ronan's ship and their own crystal technology, they constructed a hybrid vessel capable of reaching the neighboring system. Ronan worked alongside Zarya, teaching her about conventional spaceflight while she instructed him in the basics of Cathar energy manipulation. Their relationship evolved beyond the formal boundaries of the Rite, becoming a partnership based on mutual respect and growing affection. Alara thrived in the new environment, her natural abilities with crystal energy making her an essential part of the ship's construction. She and Glitch formed an unlikely friendship, the droid recording and analyzing her instinctive understanding of energy flows while she delighted in its vast database of knowledge about the galaxy. As the red moon of Xylos approached the end of its cycle, the traditional duration of the Ancestral Rite, Zarya found Ronan at the edge of the canyon, watching the sunset. "The blood moon completes its journey tomorrow," she said, standing beside him. "The rite will be fulfilled." Ronan nodded, his eyes still on the horizon. "So you'll be free of your obligation." "Yes," she agreed. "As will you." A comfortable silence fell between them before Ronan spoke again. "And what happens then?" Zarya turned to face him fully. "That depends on what you choose. Our ship will be ready within days. You could return to your life among the stars. And if I don't want to," he asked quietly, "then you will be welcome to join us in finding a new home," she replied. "Not because of any right or obligation, but because you have earned a place among the Cathar through your actions." Ronan finally looked at her, the fading sunlight illuminating the luminescent patterns on her skin. "I've spent most of my life running from one job to the next, never staying anywhere long enough to matter. For the first time, I feel like I've found something worth staying for." Zarya's patterns brightened slightly, reflecting her emotions. "The rite brought us together, but what comes next is our choice alone." The next morning, as the blood moon completed its cycle, the Cathar gathered for a ceremony. Elder Thalan presided, his ancient voice carrying across the assembled survivors. "The ancestral rite of sustenance between Zarya of the Cathar and Ronan Cade is fulfilled," he declared formally. "The debt of life is balanced. Both stand free of obligation, their honor intact." Zarya stepped forward and removed a small crystal from her spear, presenting it to Ronan. "This marks the completion of the rite," she explained. "It is yours to keep as a reminder of the bond we shared." As Ronan accepted the crystal, something unexpected happened. The moment it touched his skin, it flared with the same luminescence as the Cathar patterns, responding to him as if he were one of them. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the gathering. Elder Thalan approached, examining the phenomenon with wonder. "In all our history, this has never occurred," he said. "The crystals respond only to Cathar life energy. Unless," Zarya suggested, her eyes widening with realization, "his life energy has been changed by his connection to us. When Alara touched me," Ronan remembered. "She said she was sharing light." The elder nodded slowly. "The child has given you a profound gift, Ronan Cade. A small piece of the heart itself now resides within you." He looked between Ronan and Zarya with a knowing smile. "Perhaps the ancestral rite has served its true purpose after all, not merely to balance a debt, but to forge new bonds for the future of our people." 3 days later, their ship, a curious hybrid of salvage technology and living crystal, rose from the surface of Xylos. In the pilot's seat, Ronan guided the vessel smoothly into the upper atmosphere, with Zarya as co-pilot. Alara watched from behind them, her eyes wide with excitement at her first journey among the stars. Corporation vessels detected. Glitch reported from the navigation station. "However, our energy signature does not match their scanning parameters. They appear unaware of our presence." "Set course for the trading outpost," Ronan instructed, "and then we'll see what's beyond." As Xylos receded behind them, Zarya placed her hand over Ronan's arm. The control panel. The luminescent patterns on her skin harmonized with the faint glow now visible beneath his own. "What began with feeding my daughter has led to a new beginning for all of us," she said softly. Ronan smiled, watching as Alara pressed her small hands against the viewport, marveling at the stars. "I think I got the better end of that bargain." Alara turned to them, her face alight with joy and the reflected glow of distant suns. "Where we go now, we go together," she stated with the simple wisdom of child. Together they faced the vastness of space, a family forged not by blood but by choice, by sacrifice, and by the ancient wisdom of an ancestral rite that had seen beyond obligation to the bonds that truly matter, those created by simple acts of compassion in a harsh universe.